Jimmy. Jimmy. Jim, James, son!
So here's our old motor mount versus our new motor mount. The new one looks a lot chintzier and seems to be a little easier to move. But again, this one looks like it's collapsed kind of on the sides because it's pushing out. This does appear with that part number there to be an OEM Toyota motor mount. So it is 40-something years old. So we're gonna see if we can fit the new motor mount in there. They do look pretty close to identical. Obviously it used to sit right in there, and I did have to take off the wheel to get up underneath here, way up under there, to get through the pulleys and get through the motor mount. So let's see if we can get that new one in there. So one of the last things I want to do before I call the engine mechanically finished is I need to check out the air conditioning system. Basically what's going on is that every week all the Freon disappears out of the air conditioning system. So what I'm doing is I have these special little tools here. I have one over here, and I think there's one over here. Yeah, and I bought a bunch of these valves. We're going to remove the valves. I don't know if you can see this right here. There's little Schraders, and we're going to remove these valves from where they sort of sit in their little housings and take a look at these. I'm pretty sure these are leaking. I don't know if they've ever been changed or not. There's both of them right there. We're going to change these valves and then vacuum the system and put new Freon in. See if that fixes it, because if not, I have to go searching for a leak. I bought one of those little gas sniffers, but this is the first step. So that's what I'm going to do now. Well, it looks like we're just about to vacuum on the low side, and the high side has come to vacuum, so it's been here about 10 minutes. I'm gonna give it the extra 5 minutes just to make sure it's completely vacuumed. Hey, Mr. Sunshine, what you up to? I did change the valves. I noticed one of these valves was like stuck open. This one right here, I don't know how well you're gonna be able to see this, but see that little O-ring? Yeah, so that might have been what was causing it. Hopefully, let's cross our fingers. So the vacuum pump is vacuuming away. It's quite dusty after sitting in my shed for the last couple years, but it works. So once we have this all vacuumed, I will put new Freon in the system and see how long it lasts. Hopefully it lasts permanently and not a week this time. Okay, so this basically just sniffs for various gases like Freon and R12 and R24 and whatever. So if you put it in there, right, if you put this little nozzle in the valve and it goes beep, 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 or a siren goes off, it means that we have a leak. So first you sniff over here. So there's a valve down there, nothing. I already know there's gonna be a leak, I can hear it. Go ahead and turn this off. So yeah, we have a leak out of the brand new valve we just installed. Isn't that nice? I always love installing brand new valves and having them leak. So, nice quality modern parts. Isn't that right, fathead? Let's see if your butt leaks. Nope, no butt leaks. All good. This is the kind of shit that I deal with working on cars. It hasn't rained for a month here. All right, I hooked these gauges up and all of a sudden cats and dogs are coming down like freaking hail. This is hail. Ridiculous. Oh well, I'm just gonna stay out here. I don't care. All right, well, I'm kind of starting here in the middle, but I had to remove the radiator fan, of course, and get down to the compressor. The compressor's already loose. It's not held in by anything. So we're gonna try to plop this compressor out. Luckily, I think that they've designed it in such a way where it literally just maneuvers out. You know, back then Toyota had some real ingenuity. So let's get this compressor out. Well, she's out, and it was a boy. I can tell it's a boy because it's got this big thing on the end of it. This is the new compressor by Four Seasons. There you go. Well, it's remanufactured. Ooh. How fancy. And it looks the same. The only issue being they did not give me the manifold, so that stinks. I removed this manifold already, and we can see a problem. One of the problems why it was leaking. Look at that O-ring. Can you see that? There is no more O-ring on that manifold. Some of these are still intact, but these two main ones have just shredded to dust. So there's no more O-rings for the manifold. I did buy a set of O-rings that are supposed to come with this. So that should fix that. I also have some PAG oil somewhere here. There's the cooling fan. Yeah, so that's a little bit of lubrication. So we're gonna have to take off this manifold and swap it over to this compressor. I was noticing right now that if you notice, these two pins are at the same height, and these two pins are not at the same height. Not even close. That's not gonna work. So hopefully I can pull this pin up, but if not, I'm gonna have to swap off this harness because this was not very good when it comes to quality control, clearly. When you put a new compressor in, you always have to read this crap that they put on there. It says this compressor is pre-charged with 3 ounces of oil. That's what this is, the PAG oil. So luckily this is pre-charged. If I have to add more, I have it. And it's good to have it just in case, because a lot of these don't come pre-charged. Before you install this compressor, you're gonna spin this clutch probably 20 or 30 times just to really lubricate everything before you install it. So here we have a tale of 2 compressors. An original Toyota compressor, right, that is 40 years old, which we have to be careful because it's front heavy, but it's 40 years old. It has served for 40 years and still functions, despite it having a supposed crack in the compressor housing. This compressor has been remanufactured in the last 6 months by Four Seasons. I want you to take a look and listen at the difference between the free spinning clutches, okay? The free spinning pulley on this. And I'd like to make it clear that this has like marks on it already, and I haven't even installed it or attempted to install it. So yeah, let's take a look at the noises that come out of one versus the other. So here's the original, 40 years old, that does have some dust in it. You can hear a tiny little bit of dust, and that's it. This is the supposedly remanufactured one. Can you hear that? There you go. Why does it sound like that? It shouldn't sound like that. Well, against my better judgment, I'm going to go ahead and be a fool for a day and put this supposedly remanufactured compressor back in the car and do the whole vacuum and see what we have. If I get even a squeak of noise out of this thing, I'm going to call Four Seasons personally, and we are going to have a discussion. And this video is going to go on their main page. And I will have no problem publicly shitting on a company in every regard, because I'm getting sick and tired of this kind of crap. A 40-year-old worn out air conditioning compressor, which you can see is worn out. Like, you can look in there and you can see the scoring on pistons and stuff. Okay, shouldn't sound better than a remanufactured one. All you're hearing is the compression. That's it. this? Also, why does it spin so freely? We'll see. Well, there's the new compressor all happily in its little home. I have not put Freon in the system. I'm gonna start the car, obviously without the clutch engaged, just to see how the bearing spins. If I hear any kind of singing or chirping or grinding, then this compressor comes straight out and goes right back to Four Seasons, and I will just put the old one back in and deal with no AC, because I am super suspect of this compressor. But let's find out. All right, everything's back together and charged. We have ice cold air coming out of the vents. The AC is on and working. And miracle of miracles, I'm not hearing a giant clattering, chattering, grinding noise from the AC compressor. You may have to fill it just a little bit more, but so far it's working. Well, there it is. That's what we're coming to see. Men at work. And you know it's going to be a good show. I love that Men at Work. Colin Hay is probably one of my top performers out here in downtown El Paso. Let's go.
People say to me all the time, would you recommend Mr. Hay songwriting as a vocation? And I always say, well, this next song took about 40 minutes to write, and it sustained me for the last 40 years, so fuck yes. Highly recommend it. You never know.
To El Paso, Texas! Put your hands together for the one, the only, Colin Hay!
Now that I have the AC working, an unintended side effect of that is that it's idling high with the AC on. It probably idles at about 1400 RPM with the AC on in park, which is way too high. So I've come down here to what I believe is the idle air control valve. Gosh, we have some talkative little birds. Hey. Yeah, whatever. It's like I live in Australia. Imagine living in Australia with all those kookaburras. I've heard like videos of those and they're just like, god damn. They look neat, but dang, noisy little creatures. Anyway, we'll just continue on. There's two bolts here, two 10mm bolts that are fairly accessible that hold this on, and there's just two air hoses on top and a connector. So I'm gonna try to take this out and clean it. I think if you can see down in there, it looks pretty dirty. And it looks like it's serviceable. I do see 4 bolts, so we're gonna try to service this. So here it is. Luckily it seems to be somewhat easy to access and to take apart. So hopefully there's not much to it. Doesn't look like there is. There's most of the modern idle air control valves, which, you know, they don't even use those anymore. But on the Toyota Corollas I'm used to working on, like the mid-90s ones, they're antifreeze heated. So they have 2 antifreeze pipes. This is just air. So let me check it out. Well, it looks near immaculate on the inside, so I don't think this is going to be a problem. I mean, it looks gorgeous. There's no carbon buildup, no damage. It's like this car was just never driven ever for any reason. Very unusual. Same thing with this side. Beautiful condition. Even the gasket is still in one piece. So we're not gonna fiddle where we shouldn't be. You have to sometimes let those sleeping dogs lie. So let's put this back together and check out the throttle body. Well, I don't see anything weird about this. It seems to work as intended. So I'm going to just put it right back where I found it. I gave it a little bit of a clean up first, but I don't think this needs any attention. So the very next thing I have to check is the throttle body. Okay, well, I reinstalled the cleaned idle air control valve. I did peek inside the throttle body. There's absolutely nothing going wrong in there. You know, just by cleaning that, which was, I basically didn't even clean it or do much to it at all, it's idling a heck of a lot more normal now. So maybe there was just some corrosion on the contacts or something, so that's good. The next thing I want to do is change the transmission fluid, the ATF. I have no idea when this was changed by the previous owner, if ever. They must have maintained the car because it's still alive, but judging on the last oil change that I did, which was on, I think it was in July, yep. I'm not sure if they changed it in the last 2 years. It was black. So, just by order of elimination, we're gonna go ahead and change this transmission fluid. Look how dry that pan is, not a leak to be found. I love this car. So there's a screw right there we're gonna have to get a hold of to drain the transmission fluid, and we will see what is going on in there. All right, I have cracked the drain bolt loose. So far, the fluid is looking excellent. I mean, that's just looking at that, there's really no point for me to change the transmission fluid. But we're gonna do it anyway, because I'm already down here. And if there's one thing I absolutely hate, it's going to go do something and then not doing it. So we're gonna remove this drain plug and see what comes out. Oh my, that fluid, look at that. Wish my phone would focus, wouldn't that be nice? If a $1,200 iPhone would focus. I mean, that fluid is like brand new. Other than the dirt that I just laid in. That fluid is gorgeous. There is absolutely no need to change this fluid whatsoever. But we're gonna do it anyway, because I'm already down here. So it looks like just over 2.5 quarts came out of the transmission. We have 1 quart, 2 quart, and this would have been 3 here. But, so almost 3 quarts. That's exactly what we'll put back in. I do happen to notice that even though this is a 4-speed automatic, I am seeing a separate differential. See this right here? See that bolt? That bolt is for the rear differential, which, that's unusual. I've never seen a 4-speed automatic with a differential. I've seen 3-speed automatics with a differential, but never a 4-speed. And I know this is 4-speed because it's got an overdrive lockup on the shifter. Trying to fill this would probably be considered a nightmare because the bolt is basically inaccessible back there, but we'll try anyway. We'll try. First, let's change the transmission fluid though. So I had prepared to change the differential fluid. I removed the fill plug and began to remove the drain bolt, and the fluid is exactly the same. It's new, it's beautiful, so there's no need to go through all that rigmarole to change fluid that is already perfect. So now that basically means that I've changed every fluid in this car, the transmission fluid, the oil, the coolant, the brake fluid. There is no old fluid left in this vehicle, and it does not leak a drop or burn a drop of absolutely anything currently. So that means we're doing good. I think that almost means that we're more or less maintenance-wise done on this car. The only thing that I really have to do next, and this is just because it's like an OCD of mine, not because it needs it, the rear shocks are beginning to like dip just slightly, and I'd really like to change all 4 struts, shocks, whatever you want to call them, on this car, because I notice over bumps it kind of groans like a pirate ship. It's like, you know, it's not bouncy, it's not jumping or anything, but that's probably something that I would like to focus on next, just because it even still has all of its vacuum routing diagrams, which are crazy helpful. Look at all that stuff. That's not something you see too often anymore. That's cool. Hey, fathead. Well, this is now the second time I have attempted to replace the front motor mount. It looks like this time we got ourselves a winner. This is the appropriate one, even though it's listed as fitting a manual transmission 1986 Toyota Celica. That's an automatic transmission, and this is a Toyota Camry, but it fits, that's all that matters to me. It looks identical anyway. Look how this one is just destroyed. Look at that. So this one hopefully works a lot better. This is a little side quest I had to go on recently. If you don't want to see any of this, you can just skip to the time on the screen to avoid all of this. But recently I had to fly from El Paso into Dallas-Fort Worth and then to Pittsburgh to see my family. My family lives on the East Coast of all places, so it was about a 6.5-hour flight from El Paso to Pittsburgh. It was a good time. I am kind of scared of airplanes. I don't know why. Being someone who is familiar with mechanics, I know they're quite reliable. I'm just one of those people that's scared as hell of these flying metal death tubes in the sky, and I try to avoid it if at all possible, but I was required to go see some family because, you know, issues within the family, just health-related issues for my stepfather. But it was a good time. You know, I flew into Pittsburgh, and it was definitely an experience. This is the town where they live outside of Pittsburgh. I forget the name of it, but it's like some little enclave with these beautiful old Victorian homes, nice trees, beautiful roads. This is just outside the city. I'm not exactly sure where this is, but it's quite, you can see on the map there on the dashboard, it'll probably tell you a little bit about it. But there's lots of Amish out here. It's very nice. I actually saw some Amish and got to talk to them for a little bit. Super nice part of the country. Beautiful weather. I believe this is a little farther out. I want to say this is like in Maryland or something like that. Again, very beautiful, very green. I'm not used to this, you know, being from the desert, the American Southwest. I'm used to a cactus and a rock that you could fry an egg on. So 60 degrees all day with beautiful trees is not common for me. Yeah, this I believe is Virginia. I had just come through a place called Paw Paw, West Virginia. You know, famous for like the Whitakers, those mutants. You know, I'm not saying all these people are mutants. I'm just saying that's, you know, that's what you think of when you think of these places. But beautiful, the Smoky Mountains or whatever they're called. Beautiful place. This is actually a bridge that goes under the water in the Chesapeake Bay of Virginia, just outside of Roanoke. And it is terrifying. You have to drive next to semi-trucks doing 70 miles an hour under the water. And, I mean, the construction methods used in this must have been fascinating, but all the same, it's terrifying, you know. My mind is hypochondriac styled, you know, what if this thing collapses? What if there's a leak? And especially watching all those videos like Serpent ZA about, you know, Chinese construction. It freaks me out. This is the end of the tunnel. This is what happens when you escape the tunnel. You can see the Chesapeake Bay in Virginia. We're nearing another part of my family now, so we're nearing Roanoke. Another part of my family lives in Roanoke, kind of on the OBX. The Outer Banks is what it's called. This is the OBX right here, the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Beautiful, beautiful beaches out here. These homes are $1 million homes. They're beautiful homes, not like my crappy trailer. Here's the beach. I love the beach. As someone who was raised on the beach, it is a wonderful experience. That's my mom. So I did go with my mother here to spread my grandfather's ashes. That was the main reason for coming out to the beach, was to spread his ashes. You know, he died in 2018 at the age of 71 from a number of ailments. So his specific will requested that I was to spread his ashes on the East Coast. There's my dirty little foot. You know, that's for all you foot fetishists out there, because I know you're out there. I get comments on my videos asking me to fucking take my socks off. You people are gross. But yeah, beautiful beaches out there. The sand is nice and soft. The weather was very agreeable. It was probably 75 degrees. This was right before a hurricane actually hit the OBX. I'm just outside of Rodanthe, probably about an hour outside of Rodanthe, like that movie, that terrible movie, Nights in Rodanthe. Yeah, not a big fan of that movie. But I'm going to stop talking now and just give you the sights and sounds of the beach. It's the pirate ship. There it is.
You could literally live on it for 38,000.
What, live on the pirate ship?
There's your next house right there.
Yeah, I'm not living on that freaking thing. No, thank you. We're gonna need a bigger boat.
I used to know a lot of people that lived on that.
Yeah. I live in the desert, not on a boat. Damn, it's windy. Hello, pretty kitty. Mungus, you ravenous beast. You're already trying to eat the food. Look at you. Hi, you're so pretty. Let me see those beautiful blue eyes. Let me see them. Oh my gracious. You hungry, Gravy? What about you, Mouth? Oh my goodness, you're a pretty kitty. I like you. Well, I have some painting to do. Well, it's not painting, it's Thompson's water seal. Not a sponsor. And I should say at $31 per gallon, it is definitely not a sponsor. So, yeah, I feel like Tom Sawyer on the Mississippi.
You working your head off, ain't you? No, you ain't. Then what you doing?
I literally just sit here and get some of this crap in there and proceed to brush it on like an idiot, because I'm terrible at this and I don't really water seal all that often. So yeah, at this rate I should be done by the time the Confederacy loses. Oh my goodness, there's my helper. Miss Bella, are you helping? No, you're leaning against the thing like I told you not to. See, she even agreed, not helping. Anyway, I guess I'll hit you guys back up when I'm done with this. Well, we're back on to more things with the old Camry. What do you think of those classic license plates that I had put on? Those are quite nice, aren't they? But the rear struts on this car have sagged to almost nothing. The wheel is literally tucked up under this ridge because that's how bad these struts have failed. They are basically completely failed. So we're gonna have to change these out. The first thing we gotta do is get in here. I've already sort of loosened the rear seat. I gotta unbolt this upper half, and the strut mounts are actually under there, under that, like slid up under this little armrest piece. Or maybe shoulder rest, I should say. So we gotta get to those bolts, then we gotta take the wheel off and get those out. I did order a set of new KYBs, so let's get to it. All right, so I was able to get up in here into this little hidey hole. I don't know if you can see that, and I got my nuts out, my delicious little nuts. I was able to get this down. You can see how bad this strut, I mean, this thing is blown. It is gross, to be honest. So we're gonna remove this strut. I cannot tell if it's original. It doesn't look original, but I'll wipe off some of the grease and see. Yeah, I don't see a brand. I do see some Japanese markings on it. Let's wipe that off real quick. Yeah, this very well may be original. Look at the isolator bushings. That's not great. So we're gonna take this strut out and see if possibly we can put a new cartridge in it. Go ahead. Yeah, so it doesn't come back up at all. You can, let it go. Yeah, it's completely shot. Like it's completely dead.
It's supposed to automatically come up, right?
Yeah, it does not. So it's dead. Mr. Edward, look a little bit. Look at Mouth. Mouth loves that box. Huh, Mouth? You like that box, Mouth? Yeah. Well, there's one of the new struts, the KYBs, installed on the old spring and the old top hat. The bellow is kind of worn, but it is what it is. This top hat is actually in perfect condition. No cracking, no nothing. I mean, it's away from the sun, so why wouldn't it be? Look at the rust-free. This is one of the advantages of living in the American Southwest. Look at the rust-free nature of this car. This car is 40 years old. Look at that. Makes work so easy for me, and I love it. Look at that. Doesn't get much better than that. So let's go ahead and stick this new strut up inside. Well, there she is. New struts. She's not sagging anymore, dragging ass. There's Mr. Sunshine coming to help us. I think she's looking pretty good. I really like these new plates that I ended up putting on it. Well, they're not new. They're classic plates that I had to argue with the state to have installed on the car. They were adamant that you could not put classic plates on a classic car. So after about 2 months of arguing, I finally got them to agree to it and just shut up. Trying to get the state to do anything bureaucratic is just, it's nightmarish, especially nowadays with the rise of computers. But there it is. Doesn't she look beautiful? I mean, just look at it. Although there is more that needs fixing, she is a classic car, so owning a classic car is a constant battle to keep it running and in drivable condition. That's just how it is. If you're not prepared to be doing that, then you can't own a classic car. But that's going to be the end of this video. I believe this is part 3. In part 4, we're going to come back with some more fixes. I think we still have to do the front shocks. I want to do a thermostat at some point and just do a couple of other niggling little things. So thank you guys for watching. As always, I appreciate it, and I will catch you in the next one. Isn't that right, Mr. Sunshine? So, bye. Kind of windy out here today, but I thought I'd introduce you to my own little buddy, my new buddy. This is Miss Bella. Everyone knows Miss Bella. I inherited her a couple years ago from a family member. This is Mr. Edward. Hi, Edward. Hello. Come say hi. Yeah. Mr. Edward here was recently rescued from the pound. He is 11 years old. He drags his back paws, and he had a viral stomach infection. But I agreed to take him in because they were going to put him down just because of age. He's a good boy, aren't you, Edward? He gets along great with Miss Bella. They're two little baked potatoes. And he also gets along well with all the cats, which is unusual. So, that's the reason that I adopted him, is I felt the need to, I don't know, just give her a friend and make the rest of his life comfortable. There is the fence that I had put up recently. I ended up putting up this fence for privacy because I sold next door. I just needed some money for some projects, so I ended up doing some work to this property and putting up a nice fence. Look at how much that pole bowed out. Yeah, that's the quality of modern wood. And I only realized it after I had installed it, so oh well, it's not perfect. I even installed some AstroTurf for the kitties here so they can relax, have a nice little spot. Isn't that right, guys? Mr. Edward is ready to go inside, it would appear. So I will see you guys later.